So what's your dream? This whole last month, we've been talking about the science of getting rich. And we've come to understand that being rich does not mean just money, but it's being present and living life in its magnificence and its fullness. And so yesterday, I was bantering around with my family and my two dear friends, this idea of purpose. And so as I was thinking about that for today, what was the purpose of Jesus? Did Jesus have a mission statement? Did he write it down and have a logo? Did he create the cross as his logo, or did someone do that after him? Just an interesting observation. But Jesus said so clearly, he said, I come so that you can have life more abundantly. All of the teachings of Jesus resonated on that one idea. That was the core of everything that he described. I come so that you might have life more abundantly. And then from that, he took it and he said, okay, now I'm going to give you the tools. And he came out and he said it so easily when he said, it is done unto you as you believe. And he backed it up with the power and he said, it is not I, but it is the Father within me. And then he took it and he went even further and he says, and this you can do and more. Because the Father that was in Jesus is the Father that is in everyone, because it is the cosmic Christ consciousness that exists everywhere. And what we've had happen in our lives is we have lost that idea. We have lost that truth. We have lost that focus. And so we see ourselves as separate. We see ourselves as unconnected. And that power exists right where we are. And so I was listening to Deepak Chopra last week, and I heard this definition of abundance that I thought was pretty good, and I want to share it with you. Deepak said this. He said, abundance is a state of awareness that creates an experience in which all of our needs are easily met and our desires fulfilled. All of our needs are met and our desires are fulfilled. And so we've taken a look at that from a lot of different angles. But today, I want to ask you, I want you to consider this idea that the quality of our lives is based on the quality of the questions that we ask. So that the wealth that we have in our lives, no matter what area it is directly proportional to the questions we are asking of ourselves. And so what questions are we asking? Okay? First question, who am I? This question has been asked by all the great spiritual leaders and avatars and teachers through history, through all the great philosophers, the psychiatrists. Everyone is asking this one question, who am I? One thing becomes very clear through all of my reading. In our human mind, we see duality. We live in a world that has cause and effect, this or that. There's a world of contrast where we can look at this and there's a contrasting event here. To every white, there's a black. To every smooth, there is bumpy. So there's always an opposing force. There's a positive and a negative charge to everything. So in this human form, in this experience of spirit, as humans expressing, we have a contrast that's there. We are one with the infinite. We are that drop of ocean that fully has every property of God in it. And at the same time, we are the allness of God. We're as infinite as God because we are a part of that. And so when we look at this question of who am I come into the idea that there is Lee, that is infinite spirit, that is expressing Lee as human, in human form. So the key thing that I understand as I start to embody this, what does that mean? It means if I am the infinite, then all of the power of the infinite is right where I am, and that everything I desire is already within me. So my whole purpose in this divine aspect of me is what? To just be. Because in God there is no contrast. God is everything. God is infinite. God is all-knowing, all-present, everywhere present. There is no contrast. God doesn't have that, the allness, the infinite nature. It is just being God. Now when I step over into this side that is God experiencing and expressing itself as Lee, I'm in a world of contrast. And in that contrast, I have the power of the infinite to create, and I get to choose that. So you see, the infinite and the finite, these are the aspects that we come in contact with as we lead our lives every day. The infinite is being. The finite is recognizing that there's a power within us that is available to us, and it is always working, in fact, that we create our lives. So the next question after who am I is what is my purpose? Why am I here? And so often we've never taken the time to ask that question. So you look at it from the standpoint of the infinite, of the God presence. Why am I here? I am here to create, because that's what the infinite does. The infinite is always creating. It never stops creating. That's the definition of what infinite means. It's a creative force. It's all it does, and it creates out of itself. So our whole purpose as this infinite, as this divine, in that aspect of our beingness, is to create. So then we come to, so what is the purpose on the finite side, on the human side? The purpose there is to express and to experience love. So in the allness we create, in the finite we express and experience love. And so we then ask the question within this, what is my purpose? We now take that expression of love and that experience of love, and that becomes individualized. This is where each of us gets to choose. How do we show up in the world? And we do this by examining what is most important to us. In other words, what do we value most? And when we take the time to uncover what these values are, we now have the blueprint from which we're choosing to be in the world. And as we are in the world, we now put our thoughts and energy into that creative process. It is so amazing that when we do this choosing of our purpose, the next logical thing that comes in, because if you have a purpose and you don't know why you have that purpose or what you're going to get from it, the purpose is irrelevant. So we define our purpose from the infinite that we're creating. We go back from the finite side, the human side, and say that we are expressing and experience love. We come to our unique individual aspect of who we are, and we determine what is important to us, what are our values. And when we determine our values, then we sort of, behind that, give it juice, give it meaning as to why do I want to do this? What will come out of this for me and for everyone? What is the joy that will come from this? So we know who we are. We know why we're here. Now we ask the question, how do I do it? How do I do this magnificent life? Let's go to the divine. How do you get into the allness, into the oneness with God? It's simply through meditation. It's when we silence the mind, when we are in the nothingness where there is no contrast. You see, when there is no contrast, you're in the allness that is God. And so it's the idea that meditation allows us to just be. When Jesus went up into the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, Jesus meditated. He listened. He got still. He connected with the Father within because he knew what was coming into his life. And he wanted to be in a place where he had all of that knowledge, all of that wisdom, all of that power, and that realization. He had the awareness of who he was. You see, in the Bible, they talk about Samson came out and talked to the people 40 times. Moses was in the desert for 40 years. There's another 40 in there, and I'm not thinking of it right off the top of my head. 40 days and 40 nights with Noah and the ark. And the reason 40 is important, because 40 is the metaphysical meaning of it, means it was enough time. In the days when the Bible was written, that idea of 40 meant it was enough. So when Jesus meditated for those 40 days, he meditated just enough to get into that place. So that's the action, that's the doing that gets us into the divine aspect. And now we've got the doing, that's the human. That's where we choose our thoughts, our words, and our actions. Everything we do on the human form now to direct the power. Remember we talked about, who am I? I am the allness of God and I'm the human of God. And in the human of God, there is a power within me that directs the infinite law of the universe that creates my life. Well, if that power that creates everything in the universe is there, how do I use it? Well, I'm using it with every thought that I have, every word that I speak, every action that is a line going to that. And that action is not that you're forced to do it. It is inspired because there's something within you that is seeking to grow, something that's within you that is seeking to expand. And so it becomes not a chore, not a challenge, not something that you're forced to do, but it's something that says, I want it. And you're joyful. You're like a child on Christmas morning. You can't wait to write your list to Santa Claus. That's speaking your word about what you want. You sit with faith, knowing that that present will be coming to you because you trust in the law that is God. And when it comes, you act as if you are the most happy and joyful. And you don't act it, it's because you are that act. Isn't every day Christmas? Isn't every moment really Christmas? Isn't that the symbolic meaning of what we're about to celebrate in December, the birth of Jesus? We're talking about the birth of a Christ consciousness into life. And here's the key about that Christ consciousness. It doesn't come on just December 25th. It's in every moment of every day, in every person that has ever lived, that is currently living, that will ever live. In every moment, we have the opportunity to switch and change our lives, to create this idea of abundance, of joyful, inspired living, because we have that power that is within us. And so we anchor the doing with meditation, which gets us into the beingness of God. We anchor the doing of the human aspect, where we are directing this power that creates through our word, through our thoughts, through our actions. We use a form of prayer that we call spiritual mind treatment. Spiritual mind treatment is simply declaring into the law that which we seek as it is already done now. It is not in the future. Our prayer does not beseech, it does not ask. It makes a declaration because the power that is here only knows the now. So the degree and the quickness at which we get into a belief, when we believe it, our life changes. Let me just spell out belief a little bit for you. It's not that you just think it. It's not that you just speak it. It's not that you just act it. All three have to be in sync. Are you hearing that? You think it, you speak it, you act it because it's truth. It's your way of life. And without belief, nothing changes. And so what's the last thing we do? We ask the question, how can I be grateful? Because you see, when we're able to finally go to that place and be grateful for every event that happened in our lives, every event, you're hearing, I'm not leaving out any event whatsoever. When we are happy for every event that happens in our lives because we can see the good, the up-leveling of awareness, the shift in our consciousness, we are no longer coming from this human person here that sees duality. We are now in the divine perspective of life, which knows nothing but good. Because in the allness of God, everything has a purpose for its expansion. So to say we are only grateful for this and not for this, we are denying the eternal presence, the infinite presence of the nature of God and of ourselves. Wow, think about that. Right today, in this very talk, you have the secrets. You have everything you need to know to create the life of your dreams. Because when you answer the question of who am I, what is my purpose, what am I to do, what am I grateful for, and you individualize it to yourselves, recognizing both the infinite and the finite, and you use these spiritual practices of prayer, meditation, and gratitude, there's nothing more. You see, that's what Jesus taught. He came here so we could have life more abundantly. He said, it is done unto you as you believe. He said, it is not I, but it is the Father. And the Father is within me. And the Father is within you. You, and you are how God chose to express itself on planet Earth at this time. What I see for you is unbelievable joy and peace and beauty, abundance, loving relationships, and perfect health, because the kingdom is already yours.